Welcome back to Lesson 2. We're going to be covering the basic user interface for Maya 2017. This is what Maya looks like when you launch it. You'll get this dialog box here. This is just showing the new highlights for this iteration. I'm going to uncheck both of these. That's going to turn off those little green brackets, and I'm going to click OK. Okay, in the previous lesson we went over how to navigate within the viewport as well as using the Move, Rotate, and Scale tools, and a little information about the grid. In this lesson we're going to cover the basic user interface. We're going to start up here with the very top line. We've got a number of pull-down menus. Okay, and the pull-down menus for the most part represent everything that's inside Maya. What's unique about the pull-down menus is that they will change depending on the menu set that you're working in. And the menu set can be found right here. This is a pull down as well. It defaults with the modeling menu set, and you can see when we change these over to the different menu sets that the different pull down menus are changing. So everything between File down to Windows will remain constant, and between Windows and then down here to Cache, these menus are going to change according to which menu set we are working in. I'm going to go back to modeling. Okay, so we've got the modeling menu set here, and I'm not going to get into what each one of these different tools do. We'll start using these tools when we're working in Maya and building projects, but for now just know that the menus change according to the menu set that you're using. Over here in the top right corner we have a workspace menu set that we can choose from. Maya Classic is the default setting. We can go to Maya Standard. There's a little bit of a variation there. And we've got some Modeling Expert layout here where we've pretty much got the most real estate that you can use for modeling if you're working in a large scene. We have one for sculpting, posing, UV layout, animation, another common one used. Okay, and we can also customize our layout too. Alright, I'm going to go back to Maya Classic, and then let's move down to our next layer here, the next level. This is called the status line, and we started over here with the menu set pull down. And just working down here we've got some groups of icons. These are shortcuts to things under the pull down menus. So we have undo and redo, which is Control Z and Control Y. You can also just hit Z on the keyboard and that will also undo. That's what these arrows are right here, so just shortcuts to undo and redo. Okay. We can also open up a new scene, so that's creating a new scene, opening an existing scene, and saving. Alright, moving down to this next group, we have different ways of selecting. A lot of this will make more sense once we start working with components. Okay, we've got ways of snapping things. So we can snap to grids and to points and curves, and so on. This is telling us that we don't have a live surface in our scene. If we did, this would say live surface. Moving down here, this group is for rendering, so we can open up our render window. We can also open up our render settings. We can open up our hypershade, and I'll be covering all of these windows in later lessons. I'm going to go ahead and close those. Okay, and then moving down here at the very far side over here under our workspaces, we have 5 icons that will allow us to change the window over here. So we've got our modeling toolkit. Our modeling toolkit has a lot of features and tools that we would use specific to modeling. I don't have this one loaded here. This is a plugin for rigging. The next one over here is our attribute editor. Let me drop something in the scene here. If I select it, it's now going to show the different attributes of that particular object. Okay. There's our modeling toolkit again. And then we've got our channel box and layer editor. So you can see that I'm highlighting those. So I can select them up here. This is a shortcut for bringing up tools. We can also double click on most of our tools, and that will also bring up the tool settings for each tool. Okay, so we can either select up here, we can select over here on these tabs along the side. There's also a shortcut for the attribute editor is Control A. That will bring up our attribute editor. And if we hit it again, it will usually toggle between our channel box. So these are two windows that are very commonly used, especially when you're modeling and animating. Okay. We went over the tool settings over here in the previous lesson. Once again, we've just got our select tool. We've got a couple of other different ways of selecting that we'll get into in another lesson. We've got our move tool, our rotate tool, and our scale tool. Down here we've got our different layouts, so we can go to our 4-panel, we can go to a 2-panel side by side, and one that I like to use quite a bit is the one that brings up our outliner. The outliner is a window that lets you see everything happening in your entire scene. So here are the perspective, top, front, and side cameras that are default in each Maya scene. They are grayed out because they are hidden. So when we see them grayed out like that, they're hidden. To unhide or to hide is the toggle using the H key, so that will turn things on and off. I'll select the sphere. You can see it highlighted over here in the outliner. If I hit H, it's going to hide it. It's still in the scene, it's just hidden in the viewport. Okay, so you can also see over here under the channel box, I have a channel for visibility. When I hit H and toggle that, you'll see it turning on and off. Okay. I can also type in here. I can type a 0, that will turn it off as well, or I can type a 1 and hit enter, and that will turn it on. Okay. These are some default features. We've got a light set, object set, particles, and shading. Okay. Moving down here to the bottom, we've got a timeline that's used for animation. This is how we keep track of our keyframes and timeline that's happening within our scene. We've also got a range slider, so you can see as I move this from 1 to 200, right now we've got 200 frames set up in our scene, 1 to 200. We can change that. Put 500 in here. And then our range slider allows us to work within a range of frames within that overall frame range of 1 to 500. So if I want to come in and just focus in on one particular area within my scene, I can slide it to that. Maybe just work between frames 140 and 200. And then moving across over here, we've got some common playback features. The one that stands out here is the one with the orange tick marks next to it. This allows us to step forward to the next keyframe, forward and back. Okay. Down here we have something that says MEL, that's short for Maya Embedded Language. That is Maya's native language. We can enter MEL commands here. We can also see some feedback happening here as well when we're using tools. Over here we've got a display for command responses. So sometimes when we're doing things in our scene up here, it will give us some feedback as what is going on, including error messages. We've also got a script editor that I'm going to click on right here. Bring up the script editor. This is telling you really what's going on inside the scene underneath the hood. So this is the Maya embedded language happening. We can write custom MEL scripts and drop them in here. Maya also reads Python. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that. And a couple of other shortcuts right here. We can toggle on and off our auto keyframing when we're animating. And we've got a quick shortcut here. This little guy running with a gear behind him is our animation preferences. Okay, that brings up our preferences window. This window is also the same window found under Windows Settings and Preferences, Preferences. And these are all the preferences inside of Maya. Right now it just defaulted to the time slider. Let's go up to the interface. We can always restore our default settings by clicking on that. You can see it just brought everything back that I had turned off previously. Okay. We've got UI elements, so this is the status line that I talked about up here. We can toggle these on and off. If we want to make some more space in our scene and turn off certain things that we're not using, if I'm modeling, a lot of times I will come in here and I'll turn off the time slider and range slider, and I'll usually leave on the command line and help line. Okay. We've also got display, settings. Okay, we went over this a little bit in the previous lesson, but our working units, and this relates to our grid out here, is centimeters. We can also change those working units to millimeters, meters, inches, foot, and yard. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on the default centimeter. Okay, 24 frames per second. All right, and just some of the other things here. We've got our animation settings. A lot of times we're going to come in here and change tangents, so this is where we do that. We can also turn on and off auto key. One thing that I like to set up is my undo. Right now it's set up to finite. This will allow us to do 50 undos, and after that we're sort of stuck. And 50 may seem like a lot. It's actually not a lot when you're working in Maya. You notice when we were looking at our script editor, each one of these is considered an undo. So every time I click in here, if I'm clicking on and off something, see if I'm clicking on and off of the sphere, each one of these is considered a change within the scene, and it will add up very quickly to 50 when we're just clicking on and off and selecting things, especially when we're modeling. So go ahead and set this to infinite and hit save. Keep that feature. Okay, and then I'm going to click on here and just go back to my perspective view. Inside the viewport has its own pull-down menus, and we didn't cover this in the previous lesson. I wanted to just save this for here. The previous lesson was more about navigating. So within the viewport has its own pull-down menus. We can select cameras, create cameras, frame selections, get into camera settings and the camera attribute editor. We can also bring in image planes, which we'll get into once we start modeling. We have different ways of shading. So let me go ahead and move in here on this. So by default we're seeing this shaded in just a standard shader. If I come under shading, I can also tear this off here. You can see the little double line up here. If I click on that, it's going to tear off a window, and that's true for any of these. I can tear off any of these windows and move them around and then close them. Okay, I can go to wireframe, which is also 4 on the keyboard. Smooth shade all, which is 5 on the keyboard. It's not there. And another one that's nice to use is wireframe on shaded. Okay, and you can see that this just highlighted right here. All of these icons right here are shortcuts to the pull-down menus inside of the viewport. Okay, X-ray is also nice to work with. That kind of gives you the opacity, the ability to see through here by changing the opacity. This is very handy when you're modeling and you're using an image plane to see through. If you've got your drawing back there and you're modeling to that, you can see through. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close shading. We don't have any lights in our scene right now, but if we were lighting, we could use all lights, or we could select specific lights and just see the effect of those. Okay, and show. So we can turn things on and off in the viewport as far as what we may want to see. Something like NURBS curves get turned off quite a bit, especially when we're animating and we want to do a play blast. We can turn off our NURBS curves. Those are the controllers for the animation rig. Okay, so if I were to turn off polygons right now and uncheck that, this is going to go away because that was the polygon in our scene. Okay, turn that back on. Alright, so we can also look at our render. Viewport 2.0 is the default, and moving into Maya 2018, this is going to be the only way of looking in here. That's going to be the only viewer. Under panels, we can select our different layouts. Okay, there's our orthographic views. Okay, we can also look through selected. So if we have a light out there and we want to look through the light and see what it's pointing at, we can select this. We can go to our panel selections and we can set up different things within here. If we want to see a specific thing like a graph editor, we can put that in here. Okay, I'm going to go back to my perspective view. Okay, we can also do layouts. Quite often I like to use a two-panel side-by-side and have my outliner open as well. Okay, so we've got our layouts. We can also save some different layouts over here. We can tear things off, tear off and copy, and also edit. Alright, so just down here, these are the shortcuts to all these features up here. We can turn on and off our grid. Okay, we can access our camera settings, image planes. We can also turn on our film gate right here. This is telling us what our camera is actually viewing. Okay. Okay, so again over here we've got our wireframe, our shaded mode. This is our default texture, wireframe overshaded. If we had textures that we were bringing in, we could access those here. We've also got use all lights shortcut right here. Ambient occlusion, we've also got motion blur and multi-sampling anti-aliasing. And let me go back to a single panel layout here so we can see the rest of those. Okay. And a few other features down here that we can use as well. So this is that X-ray shortcut right here. X-ray active components. Joints, so if we wanted to look at the joints in our rig for our character, we could turn this on as well. This is an exposure setting right here. And then we have something here called sRGB gamma. We can set the different gamma settings over here if we're going to be working for under different settings here. Okay. You can also turn that on and off. Okay, by default it should be on. Alright, so that covers pretty much the layout of the user interface. Another good thing to check out is to come out to the Maya 2017 help area under help.autodesk.com, and you can select the interface overview. So this is a good place to come out here and look at the different elements of the user interface. If you forget what things are, everything is numbered out here, and if you scroll down it will tell you you've got your menu sets and menus and status line, user account menu. So when you're logged in, that's what this is right here. You can do a sign in right here. Okay. Workspaces, slide bar, channel box. And again, you can always click on any of these and it will take you out. And again, it will tell you in more detail what each one of these are. So if you want to know a little bit more about this tool right here, you can just click on that. Okay. So that wraps it up for this lesson, and we will come back in the next lesson and expand on this and begin working a little bit in Maya.